Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Toby.
And I'm Amy, and you are joining us live here from IPL Studios. We have a special guest in the studio today.
Yes, we do.
We have Sharyn McCaskey, who's coming in to tell us a little bit about the history of Rockingham. I reached out to Sharyn because we had those fires, was it December? I think it was,
yes.
And then the local community learnt that there was potentially some undetonated bombs in the area. And so Sharyn are you a historian? Is that right?
I'm a history consultant, curator, and storyteller.
Amazing.
Yes. And I operate that Facebook page that has 20,000 followers, The History of Rockingham and Kwinana. So we encourage everyone on the Facebook group to load up all their history photos and stories themselves.
Absolutely. And ask questions because I joined that group to ask questions about this, and then we kind of all had these discussions, and I learnt different things that I wouldn't have even thought to ask. So the group is a very good space to go and learn and ask your questions.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, what question do you have, Toby, for Sharyn?
What role did Western Australia have during World War One?
World War One or World War Two?
Two.
Yeah.
And all the wars. And frankly, there are far too many wars. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think there's too much going on at the moment too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Three pacifists sitting here quietly. Yeah. Now, in saying that, Rockingham has always been. For one, your Captain Sterling came over in 1827, so he was in the military, and he basically put fruit and vegetables on Garden Island. So that's how basically, if you want to say where did it all start, that was from colonial times, etc. But during World War II, we had a situation here where we had our own area where West Australia had forces up and down the coast. We actually had things in Broome. We also had army tunnels in Fremantle. Have you ever been up to them?
Ooh,
Not to be confused with the tunnels in Fremantle Prison, but the actual tunnels. And they actually would, if you ever do a tour, it's on a Sunday, I think one Sunday a month. It's like only a handful of dollars. It's so professional. And basically what happens is you go through and they show you the whole, how people worked in there, how people lived in there, and how people scoped across the ocean to make sure that we weren't being inundated by the Japanese. So we actually, it's really interesting. And there's also recently, I went over to Rottnest Island, and there's actually some tunnels over there that are through a professional tour.
No way.
Totally. It's so interesting. So interesting. Yeah. So they're battery tunnels and stuff like that. And it's all where the weapons were loaded. People lived under there. Snakes were also in there. It's Rottnest, of course, etc. But my husband and I went for a push bike ride, and we ended up going to out near the barracks, army barracks over on Rottnest Island, and we found a whole other series of barracks, battery guns and battery military spaces that was used during the World War II. Plus, do you know, down at Point Perrin, there are some battery boxes and things there as well, which
we have gone for a walk around there. It's been quite a while, but we have gone for a walk around there.
I cannot remember.
Well, we had military camps here where people trained to learn how to go into the military and how to fight within the war and things along those lines. And we also had internment camps in WA. Do you know what an internment camp is?
Where, like, they're on the move?
Close, but no. So when we went to war in World War II, we went to war against Italy, for example, and Japan. So if Italy people and Japanese people were living in Australia or West Australia, they were immediately classified as people to be wary of, people, to be concerned about. So basically what they did was they picked them up, took them, and many of them ended up in Fremantle Prison. Basically, that got turned into a little bit of an internment camp. There's a whole camp that's amazing to go down to, I think, near Dwellingup, and it's got all the foundations there where the kitchens were, and the Italians were also put into farming communities where basically they, even though they were prisoners of war, for want of a better word, internment prisoners, and I find that so sad that they get to a situation where they have lived and worked and possibly had children here as Australians, but because we went to war against them, we immediately put them into prison. I wonder if we would do that now. I really wonder, being so multicultural, how we would go.
Yeah. Well, if we look at what's going on in the US, like maybe it could still occur in today's day and age.
Well, it could. It really could. You're correct with but I think it depends on the leadership there, and
exactly.
I'm hoping and praying that our leadership would actually, but of course we've had such a stronghold military situation with Garden Island being built here. So during World War II, there were so many avenues of, we had blackouts. But remember, we look at West Australia as being a big giant city, something like your good self would actually see. When I first moved over here in 87, 85, there were 30,000 people. Well, literally we had what was called rosters. So petrol stations were only open every third or fourth petrol station. So basically what that meant was that you weren't able to actually go to the petrol station you wanted because we didn't have the population.
Yeah.
And so they trained here, they worked here, the light horse brigade trained here. Many men basically put their hand up to volunteer to work in the military here. So it really did have a very varied and different and interesting aspect to whole of West Australia and to Rockingham as well. But yes, a lot of people think West Australia in particular didn't have any involvement in the war, but we really did.
Yeah. So was it probably one of the biggest training areas in Australia for the war? No? Okay.
I would definitely say, I would suggest Sydney, of course, was taken over by the Americans, and then, up in Fremantle Mental Home, the mental institution, which is now the Arts Centre, that's where all the Americans were housed in there and billeted in there as well. Number of ghost stories from them as well. Really interesting place. So I think everybody was involved to a point, but I'm not sure that I would suggest West Australia would be involved equivalent to its popularity and its population.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. What do you think about that?
Very interesting.
Would you join the Navy, Army or Air Force yourself? No. But for them it was exciting. Remember when we know everything on the internet now. We know everywhere where people go. These people often hadn't even been out of their own towns. So to have an opportunity to go to Egypt, to go and travel, I don't think they recognise the concept of war as we understand it now. Because remember, when the men came back from World War I, they never talked about it.
Yeah.
It was never open, and mental health was never even an issue. As a matter of fact, if you actually deserted your post due to being mentally challenged, and I think they called it shell shock, you could be executed.
Really?
Yeah. There's some interesting, like if you deserted your post, and a lot of people were shell shocked and not able to do it. But there were certainly cases in England that people were executed for avoiding their post and simply because of being shell shocked. Or cowardness, which of course now, thank goodness people have more freedom of choice.
Absolutely. And mental health is taken a lot more seriously.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How you going? Are you enjoying this, Toby?
Yes.
Excellent. Talk to me some more, my friend.
Why do historians and authorities believe there may be unexploded World War II bombs in the Rockingham region?
Okay, well, let me just be clear on this. It's not a maybe. It was definitely a lot of unexploded bombs in the area. So the reason that they know is that they've actually done complete detailed reports, and government agencies have mapped out. This used to be a big training area, so down towards Port Kennedy and other areas used to be where they would actually train, and sometimes they would shoot live bombs, and sometimes they would shoot or test with dummy bombs. Now, they're not as environmental as we are. Do you know what I mean? So basically back then they would just do it, dump it, leave it. Right? And over time, the land, the sand, just kept covering it and kept covering it and kept covering it to the point, or they just bury it, etc. But definitely, so during World War II, Rockingham, Kwinana and the Peel Coastal Belt used for military and small arms training. They practiced bombing and strafing rungs offshore with the isolated bushland, and not all shells, mortar rounds or practice bombs detonated as intended. So what that meant was that they shot them, expected them to go off, but they didn't, because you can't send all these volunteers to World War II, World War One, but in this particular discussion, World War II, without any training. So it was where a lot of the training took place. So remember, when I first moved here, do you know where Rockingham Hospital is?
Yes.
Yes, where McDonald's is. Do you eat at McDonald's? Not too many. I had it for lunch. Yes. But not a product place. Sponsored by McDonald's. But in saying that, you know where McDonald's is and the hospital? Well, we used to live up the road there, and then the hospital, all of that down the road was actually sand. And if you remember, Rockingham and on all our area, we're literally sand dunes. We are literally built on sand dunes, you know. So basically that was a really great place to actually practice, because it not only was like an area where no one was around, we probably had maybe, 10,000, 20,000 people in the area, but also at the same time, it was so sparse and recognisable landscape, very similar to what they'd be fighting overseas. So, so lots of training, lots of areas here. But one of my friends, John Harrison, his job in 1987, when they started to build the housing development down there, his job was to go with a detector and every day I'm doing the detecting motions now for those that can't see us. But basically they would, much like gold prospecting, and they would go, tick 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 boom, and then that's when they would find the bombs, and they would. And another friend of ours, the Ryans in Warnbro, had to sign a document when they purchased their home that actually said, if you build a swimming pool or if you find a bomb, not our responsibility.
Yeah.
So have they built houses on land not knowing if they've, you wouldn't think they would, but is there a potential that they've built houses not knowing if there's undetonated bombs underneath the houses?
I think under the situation, I think they've done everything they possibly can to make sure that doesn't happen. But they still could be something there. I mean, Pompeii is only partly discovered, the Terracotta Warrior is only partly discovered. So there is definitely possibilities that there are still situations there, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's why they have to sign a waiver, it's your responsibility if something
correct.
is under.
And that's literally now law, isn't it? It's what you have to, cross your T's, dot your I's, and make sure that you're not going to hold me accountable for it. So but definitely I would not be surprised if I ever found out that a news channel would come on and go, found in blah 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 unexploded ordnance. Would not be surprised at all.
Yeah. So there's no doubt that they're there, but we don't know where there is. And so...
Yeah, well, they knew the area from where they were doing the actual training, right?
Yeah.
So much like an archaeological dig where you basically scope out in the little squares and things along those lines, I would suggest that's probably how they did it as well. But there really is a 0.1% chance that there still might be something there, yes. Yeah, so
fascinating.
What's that thing? Dig before you... No, what's that? Look before you dig?
Yeah.
The Water Authority, they check before you dig.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, wow.
Some very interesting things still in the area, there's no doubt. And don't forget, we weren't expecting the war. So they literally, World War One was the Great War, and the World War Two was the war to end all wars, So they weren't really expecting, to sort of go so quickly. But following on from the Depression, of course, and then of course, Hitler and Mussolini, etc. And then not until later on, America got involved after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. And then sort of it went hell-bent for leather for a few years.
So is that, you're saying that they got so busy that they didn't, they clean up all their training, or that's got...
I think that's part of it. I think that that it was very much a dump and run society back then. Historians loved that because
of course it makes for good stories, doesn't it?
Well, we find so many things like in 19. I know this is not part of this subject, but in 1829, Captain Stirling and Thomas Peel came out here and settled here, and we know exactly where Peel Town was, right, where it was settled. And one of the amazing things with Notre Dame University, and also I've done archaeological digs down at Peel Town, Peelhurst House, in down more towards Golden Bay. But the fact that they were a throwaway society meant that we can actually dig those items up. And, if you find people like, you can know what they ate. If you find artefacts, you know what they were. If you find, where it was it a rich area? Finding things and leaving things in situ was not necessarily intentional back then, but is an absolute joy for historians here.
Absolutely. Amazing.
I think so. It's my happy place. Not the bombs, but history. How you going, Toby?
Good.
Shall we head to a song, and we'll come back after this break and have a bit more chat about this topic.
Let's shout. This is Fireball by Pitbull, Bull and John Ryan. Okay, we are back from One Last Time by Ariana Grande.
And if you're just joining us, we have Sharyn here, a historian, talking about some history, Western Australian history, but specifically Rockingham history.
Yeah, I love history. I love old things. You should meet my husband.
Does that mean that he's really old?
I think he's older than me. And he's full of great knowledge, as well. He's actually the Vice President of the Maritime Archaeological Association of West Australia. Yep. So we actually go and scuba dive on shipwrecks and basically research my job with that, my role with the association is to actually, I like to know the people. I like to know, when the Georgette went down and all the people that rescued them. And remember, they had those super long dresses. So that interests me no end. You know what I mean? The people. Whereas he's very interested in the shipwrecks itself. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people in our association were also part of the people and help and support for the Shipwreck TV show.
We've watched
Shipwreck
that.
Hunters.
Yes. And that was filmed here in Fremantle.
It was, yes.
I thought that was filmed in Queensland or something.
No, it was Fremantle in West Australia.
There's I think they've had a number of series because there's a few of them around, etc.
Yeah.
But there is so many shipwrecks here off the coast of West Australia. That and also just interesting stuff. Yes,
it is. Yes, we've done Omeo shipwreck before.
Yeah. Oh, I love Omeo. Yes, that's so cool.
We need to go there again because then when I went there first, I was so scared.
Well, same.
Same. Yeah, because now you're up a few levels on your swimming levels,
and I can swim out to the pontoon finally.
Yeah. So I think the shipwreck would be more interesting for you to go around now.
Yeah.
Do you know though, I still, anytime I go over it, anytime I go onto the water or do anything, I still will wear a life jacket though, and a shark shield. We're in WA. Talk to me, my friend.
Do you know anything about Morse code?
Morse code? Tell me more. What do you know about it?
I know the actual language.
Oh, go.
Yes. Well, Toby here likes to blink Morse code to me, like I understand what's going on. I have no idea, but he likes to blink Morse code.
Blink SOS. Very cool. 3 short dots in a row, 3 long dots in a row, and 3 short dots. Are you okay? Do you need help? Just checking.
It's dot, 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 dash, dash, dot, dot, dot.
dot. Yeah. Did you know they use the Morse code on the Titanic?
No.
Yeah, so that was one of the elements of trying to get all the messages and the letters out. So when they were writing people wanted to be able to send a telegram or a letter or something from the Titanic. So that's what really, a lot of it was an actual issue where the two guys in the code room were so busy that when all the rest, iceberg, they were so busy trying to get out letters for all the people that were on the boat that some of them slipped through. And I often wonder if it wasn't so busy and they were able to understand the urgency of it all. Yeah. Tell me, do you know about Navajo code in World War II?
No.
Navajo. So you know
that one.
Yeah, you know Native Indians in America?
Yes.
First Nations. So we have Aboriginals here in Australia.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
In America they have the Indians. Right.
Yeah.
And they also have as many tribes as we have mobs, right? And one of the things that's so interesting is that the code breakers, no doubt you've heard about all those through World War II, and Bletchley Circle and things along those lines, right, where they all were. A lot of women in Bletchley Circle actually breaking the codes. But Germany could never break one code. And it was simply nothing more than they were sharing the information in Navajo language.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. It's just like it wasn't a code. We're just speaking in native language.
Yeah. And so the Germans couldn't break it.
Couldn't break it. They tried everything. And it's literally just a handful of Navajo Indians who were in the military saying, blah, 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 blah in their own language. How cool is that?
That is really fascinating.
Now blink again if you need help.
Love it.
Morse is interesting. He's named after the Morse. Morse code's named after the guy called Mr. Morse, isn't it?
Samuel Morse.
Samuel Morse, yeah. It's an interesting language, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I definitely know there was how it worked was there was like lines through World War II, and there was all these lines, and what initiated the thing was this little thing called the telegraph.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then once you got the message, which went down like that.
You mean the dashes and the dots? Is that what you mean?
Dots and dashes.
Yeah.
And then the reader would have to decode it and then respond.
See what it was on the other side. And they actually, much like shorthand, which is an old-fashioned way in which women used to work in offices, and they were just strokes and things like that created words. It really blows my mind to think of that language being lost now because we don't use it as much. So, I love that you're still someone so young that is interested in keeping that alive 100%. But what fascinates me no end is who sat there one day and said, if I put two strings together from this side to this side, and now, like I'm 63, I know I look amazing. But
you certainly do.
We grew up on the farm and we had one of those square phones that if it rang once, it was Auntie Alma. It rang twice, it was Auntie June. 3 times it was meant for us. And then you'd pick up the phone and go, hello. And now, look, we do everything on our phones. But what blows my mind is what great mind thought, I'm going to put these components together and that creates Morse code. But Morse code was certainly used during World War II. Don't know, maybe they should have Morsed it out saying, hey, we've got a whole bunch of unexploded ordnance bombs here. Can we get someone to rescue them?
Yeah.
SOS again.
Exactly. Come back and clean up your work.
Exactly. Talk to me.
What wartime activities and military operations contributed to the presence of the bombs? I think we've kind of covered that.
We have covered a lot, but pretty much it was live training with real munitions, air and naval exercises in Coburn Sound, rapid wartime construction and disposal. So basically, what I find so fascinating, for example, American aircraft carriers in the military, they were literally designed. If you want to know how to move the world forward so quickly, unfortunately, create a war. Because during wartime, it is when things really came about, such as, Morse code and other sort of things that they learn, and we then take that on in civilian life afterwards. Aircraft carriers were actually designed, built and implemented simply because they needed to get the ships out to sea basically flown in, flown out, petrol changes, food, and so saving those warships coming in and out and in and out, it literally was almost a supply chain as well of its own force of getting out there.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's interesting. It really is interesting. So rapid growth, 100%.
Yeah.
But look at AUKUS. We've got AUKUS coming in, shortly.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's an element of a lot of people clickbaiting and not understanding the full aspect of it.
Yeah.
But Rockingham's not getting it alone. It's going through Fremantle. It's going through other areas as well. It's been on the cards for decades. We've had nuclear subs in America for 1,000 million years, etc. It is just what it is, and I think it's going to build the houses because they'll build the houses.
Yeah.
It's going to create more schools because they'll create more schools. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to get political, because I have a great respect for both sides of all sides of the parties, but we can't escape the fact that we are a safe seat, and what that means is that because we're safe, they tend to sort of go, well, we won't need to implement money there because of that. Now that's not to say that our candidate and our person working for us, Magenta and Madeline, are not doing a great job, because I can assure you I like them both personally.
Yeah.
However, I think having AUKUS is going to be a great push for us to get more things.
Have you seen that there's a task force, an AUKUS task force that was announced, I think, just yesterday?
To work on the positive or the negative?
The positive, and look at
because there's also a task force created.
Yeah, to look at the infrastructure, looking at education, housing, and roads and everything. They're currently taking doing a survey and asking the local community, from your point of view, what do we need?
I think it's already decided, though, if we're going to be blunt.
100%.
I think it's going to be decided. And I think the Garden Island Highway, I do wonder if they've left that too late, but this is just my own personal opinion. Not there's so much housing and things along those lines
that has
there.
needed
it should have been done
care for a long time.
But we're all great in hindsight, aren't we?
100%.
And no matter which way you look at it, from Captain Sterling coming out in one way or another, Garden Island being built, etc., we have literally had a military relationship here. So this is really just another extension.
Absolutely.
So and I'm not, I am going to I find it interesting. Yeah. I do tend to research it a lot more. I'm not one of these people that just clickbait on things.
No.
And I really like to learn from both sides, because there always are 4 or 5 sides to every story.
100%.
But so to answer your question again, the activities of the military contribution, of course, Garden Island was built in, and put into it. But did you know before Garden Island was actually built as a military base to marry the one in New South Wales, they're almost side by side across the same name, same everything. One gets into a situation there where people used to live on Garden Island, and they used to actually, kids your age would row out there and build tin shacks and houses, and it got to the point where it literally was a city. And there's a really great exhibition that I can't think of the name of the gentleman, but all the kids and the families and the people that used to actually have shacks out on the island.
Amazing.
And of course when the military came in, that was one of those situations that unfortunately they were taken away. But because those shacks, and I think that's a bit different to the military and the government and the people before leaving things behind, I think because those people individually had the shacks, they were told they had to move that off themselves. So I suppose as we're heading into the 70s, they were becoming a little bit more environmental in that side. So rapid wartime construction and disposable, incomplete post-war clearance, again after 1945, priority was given to clearing ports and facilities rather than vacant land, because remember, no one was thinking of Rockingham was ever going to be like Rockingham is.
No.
You know what I mean. Low value area, in the sense that they thought we were just sand. Who's going to want to build here? Who's going to?
I've heard that when they came back from the World War II, they were offered a land space, and it was trying to get the area kind of developed.
Absolutely,
and a lot of these people that had come back from the wars, they were farmers. And
were they farmers?
Well, that's what I've heard.
No, they weren't farmers in the sense that we know them as, right?
Yeah.
But they were given land to farm.
Yes.
So some, and
then
that's
they
why a lot of it failed.
The Rockingham is not the land that you need to be planting crops on. It's just too sandy.
It is miles too sandy. So I can't think it was the settlement. I think it was called the military settlement. No, that's wrong. But you're exactly correct. They actually gave people acreages of land out in the Baldivis area and the something settlement it was called. I do know the name of it. You're absolutely correct. But I think that they just literally said, look, do you want a farm? Apply for it. Here it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you had to make improvements and things along those lines, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, farming could be done here. It really could.
Yeah.
So do you know down on Day Road?
Yes.
So where the cemetery is and so forth, you're going to love this, right? So down on Day Road, that used to be all farming blocks with the pioneer families, right? And there's a great line in the book Rockingham Looks Back by Nora Taggart, I think it is.
We have that book at the moment.
Great book,
Yeah.
And so, of course, every mother used to produce 9 or 10 kids back then, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
and so they used
not
to
today. Please,
oh God,
not today.
I did it with once. I'm like, no, found out what caused it, not doing it again. And so literally we've got those areas there where you have the actual blocks of land, 5-acre blocks or couple-acre blocks, etc., that the families were working on, and they were trying to work, and the kids were like, mum. So they used to feed their kids laudanum in order to put them to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, laudanum's a derivative of cocaine.
Oh, gosh.
Told you that would interest you.
So a drug.
Clearly not able to be done today.
Yeah,
You know.
We might get in a few bit of trouble for that one.
I think you might be right.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. But it shows you with AUKUS, with the Morse code, with everything, each generation's responsibility is to bring in change.
Absolutely.
It really is. That's
your job. Bring in change.
It really is.
Yeah. And you know that too.
Yeah.
The chats that we have, you already have ideas of changing things in the world and how we do things.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly, my parents' generation, have put the hole in the ozone layer.
Yeah.
By, spraying hairspray. Now, of course, that's not around anymore. The Chinese with the MSG. And so things do change. But what I find interesting is language. So, if you were to go back and fall in time, so if you space travelled to 1622, 1650, England, you wouldn't know the language. Even though you're in England, complete different language. Yeah. So, for example, spell dumb, not in Morse code, but in real world. Spell dumb for me.
D-U-M-B.
Yeah.
Okay, but why is there a B? Dumb, D-U-M. So that would be dumb, because the original word 1,000 years ago was Dumberry. And as we shorten everything, right, it is how, and pretty soon afternoon won't exist because Australians call it Arvo.
Yeah.
Right. And that is our thing. But do you know what I find really interesting is hieroglyphics. So we're talking about Egypt, right? And now you can have a whole conversation with emojis that each emoji has a word. Or if you ask a kid, how are you? Or are you okay? It's no longer A-R-E, it's R.
Yeah.
So it would have been good during war. They would have made those signals much cheaper,
Oh, absolutely.
much quicker.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, like even today's, the language of the youth of today, like Skippity Ohio, like me trying to work out what in the world they're saying.
Or 6 or 7.
Oh my goodness, no, not 6, 7. My daughter turned 7 last year. So while the 6, 7 thing was going on, she turned 7. I'm like, please, no, don't torture me.
I love it when they go like, let's spill the tea. And it's like, my grandmother used to ask me to spill the tea. Yeah. And it's like everything that's old comes back again. Everything that does,
It does.
And this is one of those things that we look at the ordnance and the bombs and the things now, that they were there. They never thought they would see them again. But now they put and it's interesting because they've never been a secret. No, it's not been a secret at all.
Yeah, but
it's been forgotten.
It was forgotten, and I think, you know, it was kind of a big thing because a lot of people didn't know about it. And then the recent fires that occurred in the local area kind of brought it back to light that they're there, which is kind of fascinating that.
Yeah.
He's hoping we don't have any more bushfires.
Let's hope not.
What's your next question for me?
So can you tell us about caterpillar escape? Am I saying that correctly? The Catalpa escape, the 150th anniversary and the book launch.
Yeah.
Tell me about what is that all about?
Okay, well, the Catalpa, let me be so clear on this, right,
Please.
is literally the biggest, if you were to make a movie about it, from where the guys actually were incarcerated as political prisoners, and they were, so basically IRA, you know the IRA in Ireland, which is like IRA being the, political parties who want to segregate from England, etc.
Yep.
So before that, they were called Fenians, right? And the Fenians were basically, they just wanted like their own country, their own culture, their own understanding, their own, you know, and to be themselves. They didn't want to be governed by England, right?
Yeah.
So basically they went out onto their own as political prisoners, right? And so England basically arrested Fenians, and pretty much they were on the Hougoumont, which was the last ship that came out here, and that was kind of a lot of political prisoners on there. So basically the political prisoners ended up in Fremantle prison, and then through a whole bunch of communications. Now remember, we have no Morse code, no telegrams, it was only letter, right? They were able to raise what we know now is probably about $100 million, right? It was literally the biggest crowdfunding application in the world, right? And
that's incredible.
It was. Well, it was all about helping them escape. So one guy escaped, managed to go back, told them about the plight of what happened in the prison, and basically then over the next number of years, there were a number of different groups put together to try and rescue them. Now, in saying that, what I love is the what do you call it, tentacles. So you guys know Egypt, right?
Yes.
And you know Carnarvon, Lord Carnarvon. He was the one that found Tutankhamun's pyramid and things underneath. Not the pyramid, but, you know, underneath it all, right? Yeah. Well, he was the one, Lord Carnarvon was the one that kept telling everyone there is an escape ready to go off in West Australia, and they're like, no, there's not, no, you know, no one's dealing with them, etc. So I love the fact that there's so many tentacles all over the place here. So there was a few groups basically aimed at helping these guys escape. Now, in the end, they all got together and basically said, well, we need to be just one group, right? And so two guys came over and they pretended to be business people, and they were like, come in the prison, let us show you around, oh, let us take you for dinner, oh, there's the governor, you know, etc. So literally these guys were ready to escape these others out of the jail, but they were given the key to the city, you know. And they're like, I'm really shortcutting, because if you literally knew the story and you watched it in a movie word for word what actually happened, there is no way in the world you would believe it, right? It just wouldn't happen, right? So basically how Rockingham's involved with it is that on the Easter weekend, the guys escaped, they came down, and Mr. Bell was towing away on his things, and he's like, who are you guys? And they're like, yeah. And then they went off into the water. And as they went off in a whale-boat, rowing out to so the Catalpa was a whale sailing ship, right? So they went on to the actual, what do you call them? The canoes is not the right word, but basically they rowed out to them. And it literally stayed in storms all night long, these guys, like smashing the rain and all that sort of stuff. In the meantime, Fremantle Police came up, and again, really shortcutting it, right? Yeah. So as these guys were heading out to the boat, they managed to get in time on the boat, right, on the actual, you know, Catalpa sailboat. And as they went on the Catalpa sailboat, the Fremantle police met up with them, and basically they sort of like, oi, you've got prisoners on board, and they're like, remember, they're not prisoners, right? They're not.
Yeah.
They are political prisoners. So
yeah.
the wording, they're like, we have no prisoners on board, which I suppose wording is true, right?
Yeah.
But remember, only a few years back, they had the Civil War in America, where the War of Independence, Independence, where England lost and had to give up America, and America became its own thing, right? So the Catalpa Captain Anthony hoisted the American flag, and again, shortcutting the whole story because there's so much involved, and literally said, you fire on us, you're declaring war. And literally, knowing that there was just the loss of the war, they actually sailed off and landed in Boston a few days later, So it's such an interesting story, but it's a human story as well, because these guys were amazing poets, they were amazing songwriters. They had been shackled constantly. So, by having the shackles around them and around their legs, etc., they were literally crippled for the rest of their lives, But one of the guys ended up starting the Boston Globe newspaper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so their poems are amazing. So this guy, every story that is written, every book that is written, and I did the book launch for Peter Fitzsimon. He's written an amazing book on the Catalpa. But what I love about this book launch on Friday night is that
this Friday?
This coming Friday, yep. So there's songs and there's music and there's songs, music, storytelling, etc. But what I love about this book is that everybody has written the book about the escape, and then the boat went off. They landed in Boston. These guys have taken it further and said, this is what happened in America. This is their life after. So I'm actually really excited to see this particular one, because it's the first time I know of any continuation. But next year is the 150th anniversary of the Catalpa escape out of Fremantle Prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why everyone's so big with it at the moment.
Yeah.
There's some great festivals in Fremantle.
Yeah, and I think there's one, is there one in Rockingham?
There's a festival in Rockingham, absolutely. Theatre 180, which are amazing performers, are putting on a show as well for it. There's also the festival, which I think you guys actually are involved with.
Absolutely. We sure are,
Well, I donated all the storyboard banners. From when I worked at Fremantle Prison, I scored them off the prison with permission, donated them to Rotary, and I love that it's been changed around and travelled, and many, 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 many people have heard about the Catalpa escape without actually, but by having this festival. It's fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
But we also have in 2029 the 200 years of settlement in West Australia, colonial settlement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be a big thing as well.
Yeah, it's a big couple of years. And
it is. I'm a firm believer that we need to tell both sides of the story, though.
100%, always.
I love what they do in Fremantle, where they have statues, and they go, here's what happened in this particular time, and then this is the white man's version, and this is Indigenous version. And I think that's a really great, and I wish they did that with the Pinjarra massacre. Wish we learnt more about that. But going back, you were talking before about the ordnance and the bombs and how the landscape changed and things like that. Well, do you know the Esplanade Hotel in Fremantle?
I do.
Yep.
I don't.
Okay. Well, this is.
I know someone who had their reception there for the wedding reception.
Congratulations. Love. Great place.
It is.
Well, you know that big giant park. So imagine a big park, like a massive park in the front of it, right? And then there's the ocean, right? Well, 200 years ago, that park didn't exist. It was all ocean.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it was all reclaimed land that is put back in.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of stuff can get hidden and lost over time as well.
Yeah.
Such as the bombs and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. How are you feeling?
Tired.
How are you going, being that this is your first interview? Have you enjoyed it?
Yes.
Yeah? What's been your favourite so far, apart from me?
Morse code.
The Morse code. I think the Morse code.
Because you've learnt a lot about Morse code prior to the interview.
Do you know why I think it's tiring? Because you've literally got to be on your brain
Yeah.
You can't turn your brain off.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to stay focused. And it's a lot of information, really fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But you know what? It'll sink in once you have a sleep tonight.
Yeah.
I'm a big one for storytelling. I
Yep.
think if you say in 1854, blah, 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 in 1888, blah, 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 in 1810, blah, blah, blah. But if you tell a story around it, people will remember it.
100%. Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah, I'm
I
a big believer that.
take it on a lot better when it's told as a story.
100%.
Shall we head to a song?
We shall. This is Don't Stop Me Now by